So we have today an announcement of the bailout, the $2 trillion bailout, stimulus package, whatever you want to call it. It's a multifaceted program, of course. And I'm going to have many things to say about this in the near and probably distant future. But the one thing that stands out to me right now is I look at Boeing, $145 per share, and it's up more than 50% from recent lows. And that's just a few days ago. And of course, much of the gains were made, not only of course today, it's up 16% plus, but primarily yesterday, right? Yesterday, and or I should let me be clear on that. The 24th. I'm sorry, the 23rd. The 24th of March, and actually it wasn't even the 23rd. It was pre-market 24th, right? Pre-market 24th, and of course today, the 25th of March, pre-market again. And so this is something that many of you, or all of you who had tuned into the recent webinars I presented, as well as the market forecasting research, I have stated this many times, and that is, if you want to get involved in a lot of the mustard, a lot of the gusto of the trades, right now, during this period, you got to be doing pre-market trading, because that's where the majority of the gains are coming from, whether it's on the upside, the long positions, or the short side, the short positions. And I'm just looking here at a chart right now of pre-market, the 24th, and Boeing was at 105, and it popped in the pre-market on the 24th. It opened at 123, just under 124, $124. So right there, you're talking about just under 20%, 18% or so in the pre-market. And then throughout the day, you can take a look at a chart yourself. You might want to pull one up, intraday chart, and take a look, or I guess like a 5-day chart, or whenever you're watching or listening to this, maybe a 10-day chart. But throughout the 24th of March, after the pre-market surge, Boeing traded for the most part flat, even went down a bit later in the day, and then closed up a little bit, a few points up to 127.5. Pre-market March 25th, in the morning before the normal trading hours, Boeing soars, and of course on the 24th, later in the day, or I guess maybe perhaps early in the day actually, before the market opened, there were talks of a stimulus package, and so that's why the market soared by more than 2,100 points. And when I speak of the market, of course, I speak of the Dow. I'm not going to go over why I still consider the market as the Dow. I've talked about that in the past. I'm in the minority there. Most people call the S&P the market. Nonetheless, so you can see that if you're looking at a chart, today, March 25th, pre-market Boeing opened at 154. And right now it's 147. So think about that. Where the gains are being made, right? That's the one thing I wanted to point out. Now, in the past, several years ago, pre-market trading was really only available to institutional investors, funds, financial institutions. It was not available to the retail public. At a later stage, you could involve yourself in retail pre-market trading if you had a substantial relationship with one of the major wirehouses. And then later on, more recently, pre-market trading became available to online brokers, right? So enabling everyone to become involved in pre-market trading. But it's not just that. There's many issues behind pre-market trading. Not the least, of course, of which would be getting up early enough, right? And also, you have to put in limit orders. You can't put market orders in. And perhaps more important than everything, being patched into that network, that information network that institutional investors are patched into, right? But aside from all of that, I wanted to really focus on Boeing as a company today and its failures as a company, pointing to the failures of capitalism in America. Now, this is not the first time that we've come across an instance of an example of the failures of capitalism. Of course, many pointed to the financial crisis, right? But we're continuing to see more and more failures in capitalism. And the reason why is because capitalism has gotten to an extreme. And I tell this to people in Southeast Asia all the time, because many of them, depending upon the country, they're so anxious to go to America, and they want capitalism, especially Vietnam. They love America. Well, I can't speak for the whole country, but certainly Saigon. For the most part, they love America. The dream is for them to go to America. And, I can see that. Hanoi's a little bit different, although I think they're still pretty much pro-American. The government's a little bit different on that. They're a little bit mixed on that, based upon the relations with China. That's another topic of a future discussion. But you can imagine, of course, America, first of all, treats Vietnamese very well. Vietnamese are treated special, right? And it's because of the war. And, there's a variety of ways that they're treated well, from special scholarship programs for Vietnamese refugees and their offspring, to just kind of overall being favored. And so you can imagine these individuals, many of them relatives, they have relatives in Vietnam, they speak to friends, so on and so forth, so they're hearing about stories of America, so they want to go to America. I understand that. But the one thing I tell them is that the problem is that capitalism has gone too far. There's no brakes for capitalism. And so what ends up happening is you focus so much on material items, on money, and the acquisition of money, that you don't care how you get it. Your morals dwindle. It's no longer a moral issue. It's all about satisfying your God, money, the obtainment of money. And so the society crumbles, the importance of your family and friends dissipates, and you have a situation like you have in America. Very dangerous society, a society that really only worships money and material things and people who have money. And we're seeing this much more with the internet and social media. Overemphasizing a person's value and worth and so-called wisdom based upon the amount of money that they have. And that's why you see all these charlatans being promoted by the media. And I'm not going to talk about the tribal connection, because just about every single one of them, of course, are in the tribe. I don't want to focus on that right now, even though the tribe is responsible for the corruption, the perversion of capitalism. That's another topic of discussion, probably many discussions. I just kind of want to focus on, you look at people like Kevin O'Leary, which, you may think he's an Irish guy, but he's not. He's from the tribe. And they promote this guy. This guy's a complete snake oil salesman, huckster, charlatan. They do the same thing with Mark Cuban. Complete putz. As if these guys are great and they know what's going on, how to invest, Folks, listen, these are not the people that you want to aspire to be. They're scumbags. They're losers. They're parasites. They're media celebrities. But I want to hold off on that topic. I don't want to veer off too far and get back to Boeing. So here we have Boeing now that's going to get a bailout. And the reason, the excuse is that, well, they're vital to the national security. The airline industry is vital to the national security of the country. Okay, if that's the case, then the country should run that industry. It should be industry that is run by the government. and I've made this case for many years. I even wrote about in America's Financial Apocalypse. Any type of industry or even company that's vital to the economic, national security of a country should be run by the government. If not, you're going to get exploitation, collusion, and all types of fraud. And that is why we have a healthcare system in America that is what it is today. It's a complete disaster. And you can look at many of these industries. Folks, I'm not going to talk about all the industries that are the private markets that should be run by the government, but you can just go ahead and think about companies responsible for the overall generic infrastructure that would move an economy forward. Let's look at Boeing. Boeing's going to get a bailout, right? First of all, the airlines should be run by the government. Period. End of story. End of story. Now, you're going to have the charlatans out there, the con men, the libertarian fraudsters, and that's what they are, folks. If you don't understand how and why, well, you need to patch yourself into my previous content. I've exposed these libertarian pieces of shit, hypocritical crooks. That's what they are. They're fucking crooks. Okay? They're trying to sell you their snake oil, whether it's overpriced bullshit real estate in Argentina where they want you to go to escape the collapse in America. That's right. That's what was sold, this bill of goods to hundreds of thousands of people. I don't know how many, what percentage bought into it, but I have heard from a few people that did and regret it, and fortunately they got out. You're talking about Argentina? What? Are you kidding me? Right? In the drug zone of Argentina, Salta. And of course Argentina has defaulted on their sovereign debt several times, and even now they can't pay it back from the IMF. They obtained the largest bailout in IMF history. Complete disaster, hyperinflation there. So you have these libertarians that want to tell you that and by the way, I'm the most critical person of the U.S. on a reasonable sense out there. I'm more critical than these libertarian charlatans. But the fact of the matter is that America is the best country, the greatest, the strongest, most powerful country in the world. That's just a fact. Now, are there weaknesses? Are there some things that it doesn't do as good as it has in the past and aren't found in other countries? Of course, without a doubt. But overall, the fact is that the U.S. is the head honcho. Nobody can even come remotely close to the U.S. technologically, militarily, economically, you name it. Okay, so if you're going to bet on a country, especially a country that you're aware of, you're familiar with, you grew up in, why would you cast aside that situation and move to some place in South America, very dangerous? You don't know what the hell's going on there. You don't really have any rights. You don't know anything. You have to be an idiot to do that. And if you did that, well, you're an idiot. If you got out, well, good for you. I congratulate you. Because we're not perfect. We all make mistakes. The most important thing is, are you learning from your mistakes? Are you doing a 180 once you understand that it was a mistake? If so, hey, that's awesome. You can't expect anything better than that. It's the people who continue to make the same mistakes, who stay in the little cults of doom, who I feel bad for. I don't want to attack them or fault them, because I really feel bad for them. It's bad, and you know, you're talking about a whole industry of criminal charlatans that are pushing this whole agenda. So let me get back to Boeing, and I mentioned the libertarian because these are the people that are going to say, oh well, gosh, you know, they always say, well, capitalism is great as long as the government stays out, right? And the reason why capitalism is failing is because the government's involved. That's complete nonsense. Boeing should be run by the government. The airline industry should be run by the government. Any company, any industry that's bailed out by taxpayer dollars needs to belong to taxpayers, needs to be run by the government. And I'm not just talking about through the duration of their bailout, their loan. Fuck that. We own you now. That's the way it should be, folks. And I want to encourage everyone in America, listen, number one, any company that outsources, boycott them. And some of you people out there who won't always find an excuse. You know, you don't want to. You don't want to do something that's actually good for the society, and you always want to find some bullshit excuse. Say, well, gosh, Mike, every company's outsourcing. What am I supposed to do? You know what? Deal with it. Okay, because if you don't fight these companies who are outsourcing, you're talking about betraying your future generations. Okay? So the first thing is boycott these companies that outsource. The end. There's a few large companies that don't outsource, even though their competitors do. That's probably a topic of another discussion in the future, but start boycotting them. Folks, I boycotted Walmart more than 20 years ago. I saw what was happening. Number 2, boycott these companies, these industries that are getting government bailouts. Think about it for a second. Ultimately, the consumer determines the success or failure of all companies. If American Airlines and United Air and Delta, they get a bailout, then if you don't fly, then they're grounded. No bailout's going to help them. You understand? Demand more. And of course, none of this is going to happen because the people are all sheeple in America and they're controlled by the media. Media is run by the corporations. But look at Boeing, right? They're getting a bailout with your money. With your money. How many jobs from Boeing, by the way, are outsourced? Folks, I don't need to even look at it. I don't need to research it. I can tell you right now. Not just thousands, tens of thousands. Do the research and tell me I'm wrong. Your money is supporting foreign jobs. Think about that. And some of you may not have a job now or may lose your job in the future, but you're going to still have to support, and you may have already supported this company through taxpayer bailouts, which is supporting foreign jobs, yet you may not have a job. Think about that one. And no other country does this happen. Now, increasingly more and more over the horizon, you can see this from Europe because of the way the Wall Street and corporate establishment crowd has gradually pulled Europe into its grasp of scams. And of course, this began, I mentioned this when I wrote in America's Financial Apocalypse as well as many other times. The whole scam began during the dot-com collapse in 2001, 2002, and especially after the 9/11, when we had a recession going on. The Wall Street bankers, and this is, of course, as you'll recall, this, right around the same time as the passage of the EMU, the euro currency, they pulled Europe into our system, flooded it with credit, because there was no business to be had within the banking system during the dot-com collapse. This is when they flooded out all these mortgages, and things were changing in Europe. They began to pull Europe into a consumption-based type of credit-based economy. And since that time, of course, it's continued to grow and spiral. Maybe some would go ahead and conclude it's already spiraled out of control, but it's going to get much worse, I can assure you. So I want you to think about all these things, folks. Consumers, if they unite, have all the power, right? And the way it's done is that the media brainwashes the consumers. They tell you all this nonsense. And there's no group out there to unite consumers and to provide them with real information. You have all these fake groups out there and fake leaders and fake, just gatekeepers and shills, right? So, and this is why, I was shut down long ago, right? They don't want people to think straight, to think clearly. Because if you think clearly, you're going to see what's going on, and it's not going to bode well for the criminals running the country. So I'll talk more in the future about Boeing. Let me just go ahead and say one more thing, though. One important thing. This is probably the most important thing. I apologize for all the rambling previously. This might be the single most important thing from this whole talk that I have given, and that is the following. Boeing is now getting a bailout, and they're saying, well, we need it because of the coronavirus, right? Airlines are suffering. They've canceled orders, and we're in trouble now. We've got all this debt. But think about it, folks. Boeing was a failed company before the coronavirus, right? It was a failed company before the coronavirus. Molenberg, the former CEO, This guy should be in the electric chair. The electric chair. He was responsible for 2 planes crashing because of failures under his watch. And I can guarantee you, I haven't followed it closely, but I can guarantee you there were all kinds of cover-ups. He knew about it, and he was going to take the risk. He didn't think it was that much of a risk. And he kept denying and denying and denying and denying and downplaying everything, right? And the media helped his cause, like of course they always do, by putting out these little stupid headlines. They do the same thing with Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. Congress is grilling Muhlenberg. Oh wow! So they're asking him questions, right? They did the same thing with Zuckerberg to make it seem like, wow, they're taking the heat. They're getting theirs, right? You understand the psychology. And the media should have instead come out and said, wait a second, why hasn't he been indicted for murder? Right? Why is Mark Zuckerberg not in jail? Why is Facebook allowed to continue to exist? You understand? You see how the media plays these games. They make it sound like they're getting their lashings. And this is nothing. You see the same thing with the PG&E. All these fires they've been attributed to have caused, resulting in numerous deaths. I saw the other day that this company has been indicted for homicide. Or I think maybe homicide, manslaughter, I don't know. But the point is that part of the agreement is that none of the executives are going to be indicted. The company is. And guess what? The fine was $4 million. This is just shocking to me. Let's get a little perspective here. Remember, Mr. Ghosn, the French, Brazilian, Lebanese, I'm not sure, Ghosn, right? The guy that ran Nissan. What happened to him? Well, the latest I heard, of course, he escaped Japan. He was on bail at home in Japan, awaiting several counts. He was indicted for several things, but the bottom line was that he did not disclose on the formal filings, the formal securities filings of his full compensation. He didn't disclose that to shareholders. He didn't steal the money, he just didn't disclose appropriately to shareholders. Now in America, if that would happen, I will guarantee you, folks, that's not going to be considered securities fraud. It's going to be an oversight. They're going to have to restate the filings. Ghosn was imprisoned. He was waiting trial for that and similar things. You know why, folks? Because Japan doesn't fuck around. Japan has more control over capitalism. They don't let it run amok and fuck all the people. So I salute Japan for that. Think about what would happen to PG&E if it were a utilities company in Japan. And remember, this is a company that's publicly traded. It's a free market company. It's not run by the government. Right? All these libertarians out there that want to tell you the free market's so great and they're so efficient and the government can't do anything right. They fuck up everything. Oh, really? Well, the government wasn't running Boeing. The government wasn't running PG&E. And of course, these same frauds who are never held up to any type of credible criticism. In other words, do you actually think any of these guys would dare go up against me for a debate, for a discussion on a neutral platform? Of course not. They're going to have their little conferences and roundtables consisting of the same types of charlatans, the same types of pieces of trash to brainwash their cult members so they can sell them information packets on how to move to Puerto Rico and pay no taxes. Right? And to move to Argentina and get a second passport. And all these other fucking bullshit scams. People, if you're looking for shortcuts, and I'm talking shortcuts that enable you some type of a gravy train of easy money, you're going to lose everything. There's no fucking real shortcuts that prevent you from doing work. You've got to work. Is there some guidance you can get to make your pathway more efficient? Of course. But there's no shortcuts out there that are going to hand you money. And if you fall for that shit, you're going to lose everything. So I just wanted to mention Muhlenberg, of course. And it's the same thing with Wells Fargo, folks. Remember all the shit with Wells Fargo? Anyway, I just got a notification. I'm running out of storage here, so I'm going to end this now. Perhaps it's a convenient time since I've been rambling for a while, and I will talk about these things in the future.
And we're short NVIDIA, it's a loser. 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 And we're short NVIDIA, it's a loser.
Their earnings report is a complete game changer, at least for quite a while. Bottom line, NVIDIA now is going to enter the realm of Tesla, Apple, and all these other big,
And we're short NVIDIA, it's a loser. And we're short NVIDIA, it's a loser.
I mean, listen, NVIDIA can come down to 150, come down to $100. If you don't think it's possible, then you don't understand how the market works. I mean, listen, NVIDIA can come down to 150, come down to $100. If you don't think it's possible, then you don't understand how the market works.
And we're short NVIDIA, it's a loser.